I have one question to all the panelists. What was challenged you during the expectation of the presentation, and discuss what was surprised you during the discussion? Maybe you can tell us something concrete, what brings the discussion and the conference for you personally. Okay, we can start with the on the left.
On the left. Well, I was surprised by the way the energy is built up within this sort of debates, because we use this room, which is really large. I mean, it's huge, and we were scattered in the room, and at first people were not interacting, but towards the end everybody was jumping into the discussion and having his opinion. Well, I would say that the most interesting thing is about the clash of professional, specialized visions upon things. So we're looking at the same thing, but some of us are lawyers, some others architects, some other social workers. And it's not easy to change the perspective. It's like you have there a sort of a tropical forest, and then you have, that sort of scientists that are entomologists, herpetologists. So they look at the bugs and the trees and the birds inside that tropical forest. These are, generally speaking, sociologists and anthropologists. So they have this sort of vision. Then you have the police guarding the forest, the forest police. That would be the lawyers that are looking at the people that are trying to illegally harvest and to kill the trees. And then you have companies that are trying to exploit the forest. So you have deforestation engineers. These are architects and urban planners, generally speaking. And then these sort of events, like the Roma Decade, are trying to put together all these people to work to either develop or preserve that tropical forest. We don't know yet. So I think this results in a sort of a clash of visions based on this specialization. So maybe we're looking at a profession that is somehow in statu nascendi, which is povertology or Romology or that sort of professions that don't have a very clear status. And we're forced, each one of us, to make a step aside from our mainstream approach, being it either economy or sociology or urban planning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Colin.
Okay.
Josef Egedus.
Maybe I mentioned two things which were very interesting in the workshop. One is that a lot of solutions already existing in the field. So in the field, the different institutions and people innovate a solution which we as a policymakers or advisors just find and try to make generalize. And one of the examples is that this guaranteed housing, which was developed or taught in the first year by Martin Lux, is already existing in several countries. And this is rental agencies in some of the Western countries, where the key element is that there are agencies or organizations which take certain guarantee to the private rental sector for making possible to rent out houses for very, very poor people. And this is related to the other interesting observation that one of the key problems with the Roma housing problem is that to work against the low-income opposition, the opposition of the people of the low-income groups who are living in the neighborhood of the Roma programs. it's very difficult to politically to manage them. So one of the conclusions was that sometimes you have to give some programs for these not very poor people, but who are really suffering a lot of the desegregated and poverty indirectly, living very close these neighborhoods. So you have to design programs which gives something and politically make politically pursue these people to side to the programs. I mean, this was, I think, very interesting. And this is something which the people who are living very far from the field forget about it. So we are very politically very correct to force low-income households to accept things, but we who are living very far from this field are not really suffering very much of these problems. I think this was very important.
Thank you very much. Josef Egedus, Eva Sobotka.
So what's the surprise and what's the expectation? Okay. I would say, I mean, I'm not sure whether there is room for surprises, but the way I understand this conference is that it's part of a, let's say, process, it's part of larger effort. We do not organize a conference just to get together and impress each other with what's going well, what's going not well. I think that it's important to realize that, and the discussions that took place in the working groups, but also in the plenary yesterday, and then the presentations show that there is in fact still a lot to be done, both at the level of achieving some kind of a understanding that we do work in the context of human rights framework, yet there's a variety of actors that do approach it through their own ways, and so more dialogue and sort of increase of understanding as to that we actually do share the same objective is needed. So, and I think to some extent, and maybe that's the surprise, the conference has achieved that, because it's important that that this discussion is taking place. A particular surprise for me, having worked on addressing the situation of Roma for some years, is that finally we do have, let's say, bigger interest from the private sector, which I find very important. And I think in relation to the dialogue that I was mentioning, which is to some extent conceptual but also value dialogue, and it is important to continue that. So I would really want to get involved more in this type of interaction, and also call on the private sector to in fact bring in more of their partners for this dialogue to continue. In terms of expectation, and I would like to link it to the follow-up on the conference, there's a number of experts in the room. There are people who've been working in this field for a number of years. I guess, as I said, it's a process. It will continue. There is a big opportunity now at the EU context, in the EU level, with regard to the structural funds. We discussed it into great extent. So that would be an invitation for the people here to take it further up, and also to maybe motivate the local level authorities to get more engaged, which is another, and that's my expectation for, let's say, the next round of discussions. And I would like to see more local authorities participating next time in this kind of gathering.
Thank you very much, Michael Bay.
Thank you very much. I would agree with Eva. I was also surprised with initiatives here in Czech Republic, especially after the presentation of Mr. Svoboda, which was very promising, where a company, profit-making company, invested more than 500 million crowns, Czech crowns, for social inclusion policies. So maybe in the next conference I would be happy if we have 10 presentations on the same topic. Of course, I was also impressed by the situation that was reported by the national quality body in Romania about enforcement of sanctions in national level. Of course, we know that EU 27, we have a diversity of cultures and legal systems, but I can I can see the concerns of the specific equality body. And then I would say that we should keep in mind what Alekos told us yesterday, that the momentum, it's since the last 9 years that have been dealing with discrimination issues, racism issues, and Roma, I can see that there is this common understanding between EU institutions, the Parliament, the Commission, the European the Council of Ministers. So we see that there is a strong political will in this very high level, but we don't see it in the local level. Our research found out that the problem is local level. So I think that we still have the means to persuade local authorities with sanctions or with other means that could be given through the ERDF or other structural funds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Adam Kuhlmann.
So I would have 2 points. One of them is that yesterday morning we have heard that now that the ERDF is allowed to be used for housing of marginalized communities, it has 2 conditions, more or less equal conditions. One of them is the integrated approach, the other one is desegregation. But what we have seen today morning is that these 2 are totally different in terms that the integrated approach is applied in many places, I mean brilliantly, really involving early childhood development, education, employment, health, community development, lots of things, and very innovatively. But desegregation is and I think integrated approach is more a challenge for the national administration to combine ESF and the ERDF and things like that. But desegregation is more a challenge for all. So this is at least my understanding. So this is why I think that this should be discussed much more in details later on. And the other issue is that we have seen a huge amount of personal commitment from people on the ground. And I think that besides being clever and making good guidance notes and things like that, we have to find a way to use EU funds to multiply this kind of commitment, or at least not to kill it, because we have seen many examples in other cases as well for that. So I think this should be kept in our mind as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Marianne Faraon.
Thank you. Okay, 2 points in keeping with the trend here. We've looked at examples, and there's other workshops as well that looked at the UK, but interestingly, the quality of life conditions everywhere in the world, including the UK, for the Romani is similar, and it is very surprising. It's also surprising that many people are not so aware of it. The other point is that here we are on the cutting edge, new thinking, new tools, new technology, and what we always end up coming back to is the value of local knowledge. And Lauren Nicolai, he put it really well. He said that with all this thinking and deriving, we seem to have gotten back to the point where we're reinventing tradition. I think that the expectation now is that as the mobile partners on the ground, as the architects and the planners, that we're listening, not running away with what we believe the problem is, but discerning the problem and the issues and the approaches in partnership, because that kind of collaboration, very early on in the project, also as Eva mentioned, is what starts a long-term relationship and an input of energy that sustains itself and that changes lives. It's not just about buildings, and it's also about developing social capital. And ultimately, I think it's also, a kind of humbling to this understanding that we'll get the principles of housing and dignity in place. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have a few minutes to finish the plenary session, and after there will be conclusion. If there isn't any question or comments, I would like just to say that I hope that the conference gave us all that we fulfilled the aim of the conference. It gave us the floor to discuss the views and the information which we need for the better implement the strategies and also the finance resources. And what seems that what is important, that we have to be more focused on the involvement of private sector and local authorities, because they are we need them to change the situation, because we are meeting again, exchange the good practices, and also we are the experts, but we need more the people involved who is really doing at the local level and national level to influence their decision making.